Hello internet. As you may have noticed, my videos for the last couple months of 2018 were like scattered, sparse, and there weren't really a lot of substance in those months on my channel. There was just not a lot going on. And as such, I didn't have wrap-ups for like the last 3 months of the year. That doesn't mean that I didn't read books. It just meant I didn't film about them because I kept putting it off because I didn't want to do what I was supposed to do. And we will try to get better at that. But I'm going to tell you about all of those books. I'm going to tell you about a couple of those books and make a long Star Wars scroll about all of them because this is kind of just a record for myself so that I can brag later to my grandchildren about how I once read a lot of books, before I inherited that horrible eyesight that follows my family everywhere. But we're going to talk about a few of them. The standout ones, the ones that I love, the ones that I would love for you to read, or the ones that I just have shit to say about. That's it. So I read a lot of books. Now at the end of the year, I averaged around 20 books per month. I read a total of 200 and something, official number on screen because I don't know, I gotta look it up. And for the future of 2019, I just don't care. I don't care. I think my Goodreads goal is now 20, and I'll increase it by 20 every time I finish 20 books. But 2018 was just so successful with reading that I no longer care what I achieve from now on because I accomplished that. So we're going to talk about books and the ones that I read. So starting in October, which I had filmed as a wrap-up video, but just never edited. But there were only 2 books that really stood out to me in October. The first of which was Heartforger. This is by Ren Shipeka Cho. It is the second book in a series. This is a book about a necromancer. It takes place in a fantasy world where magic is common. However, there are certain people with magic which is reminiscent of necromancers. They are commonly called bone witches. They are very, very important to the health and life of the world, but not very well liked because of their powers relating to death. It follows a young girl, Tia, and her going to school to learn about her powers and society and everything like that. It has a perfect hate to love relationship, and in this second book it focuses more on Tia growing up. So it starts with her pretty young and her growth in the first book, and now we're at an older Tia. This story is mainly told in flashbacks by a present day Tia who is telling her story to a storyteller so that someone will know the true history of Tia the Bone Witch. And so we are introduced to young Tia by elder Tia and all things going on. Anyway, my main point is it was such a fun book. I really, really liked it. Loved the magic, everything, but also really loved it because it delivered something that I always look forward to in books. First, it had hate to love, which it was perfect. It was the perfect sort of hate to love that I want out of a story. And second, it had the main character be a villain. At least a villain in everyone else's eyes. As we come to find out in the series, and we will in the 3rd book when it comes out later this year, is that she isn't actually a villain. There is some devious stuff going on in all her actions, which will seem evil to everyone else, or actually for the health and benefit of everyone. At least in her mind, she is very, very strong about that. So she's sort of like an anti-villain, but is a villain in everyone else's eyes, which I love. I love characters who are villains and are villainesses, and I like when they're main characters too. So I really like this, not only because it had necromancy used by the main character, our protagonist, but also because our protagonist is everyone else's antagonist, which I loved. Next book that I read in October that I'm going to mention is A Caught a Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. This is a part of her middle grade kind of YA series about a young girl who is a witch, and she is being introduced to the witch society as she thought she was a normie, a mundane person beforehand. This was a reread for me, however this time I read it on audiobook, and which is why I'm mentioning it, just because I thought the audiobook was really, really good and had really great production. So I just wanted to mention it because I read it on audiobook this time and it was really good. 2 books that I read in November. The first book I'm going to mention is Thisbe Desktop and the Black Mountain. This is a middle grade book about a young girl who ends up being adopted and becomes the caretaker of a dungeon, which is filled with like monsters and trolls and stuff like that. This book is filled with pictures, which I love because I like pictures. It was just really fun having this young girl just be the caretaker of a dungeon, know how it works. I liked her and her friendship with this other girl, so I had this great female-female friendship. I liked it. It was a cute book. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed myself with this book. The next book that I'm going to talk about, or really the next 2 books, are Red Sister and Gray Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is the first and the second book in a trilogy. This was great. So great. As you guys remember, I really wanted an Arya Stark-esque book following a girl who went to an assassin school. Originally, I thought I would get that out of Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. However, that book really didn't turn out for me the way that I wanted to. But I did get my dream fulfilled in this series by Mark Lawrence. It was really, really good. It follows this girl who lives in a world where certain people can have magic abilities based on the blood that they have. It becomes a part of this book, but that's really not the important part. You kind of just gotta read it to get that. The main part is they go to a school. It is a school for girls. It is like basically a nunnery, and these girls get trained not only in like geography and stuff like that, but in fighting and how to kill and destroy your enemies. And we are following sort of an underdog main character through this. Most of it is like just her following this girl throughout her youth as she grows, but there are a few chapters at the beginning of each part which tells us the present day of what's going on with them being older, and we're gonna kind of piece together that puzzle. So I don't know how it's gonna end up with the last book, what's going to be happening there, but I did like both time parts. I did like there are 1 or 2 chapters that are set in present day, and the rest of it is just entailing this girl's life, and I liked both parts and how they intermixed with each other, and like just like the anticipation of this. And I really like the main character because she was like a badass, a fighter, but also one of those believable ones where you're just like, you're so good, you should win every fight, but also you still need a lot of work, so of course you're not gonna win every fight. She was like the perfect underdog character, which I just wanted to succeed, and it was just really great, and I highly recommend if you want a Arya Stark-esque book. Like if you like that concept of a girl going to a school to be trained as an assassin, and you like high fantasy, because this was just a good series. Next, we're going to talk about Stormrunner by J.C. Kravats. This book is a book I'm mentioning simply because it was something that I was really looking forward to and really enjoy. While it was not my favorite book that I've ever read that dealt with mythology, it was one that I really appreciate and love. So this is a part of the Rick Riordan Presents, which, like, you know, Rick Riordan is famous for middle grade books to semi-YA books that revolve around kids having godly parents or being involved with the gods. So in this, he's just helping introduce more artists and more authors who are telling those same sort of kids of being involved with gods of certain religions. And in this, it is about a boy who is connected to the Mayan gods. I grew up in Belize, and Belize has a lot of Mayan temples. I actually live down the street from two of them. Like down the street, I mean like 15 minutes to get to either one. Not that far. So it is something that I'm familiar with and that I love. So I was really happy to see that. Again, then there was a Latin main character. Again, love. There was, the main character also had a disability, which was treated so well, and it was just like, boy, like, I liked how it was handled in the sense, like, he had a disability, he felt some type of way about it, but it was also shown that it wasn't a weakness, that he wasn't less capable because of that to him, despite how he may have felt because of how society can make you feel about having disabilities. So I did like that. I loved his family. His family was so great. They were really sweet. His mom was just the sweetest. She was a wonderful mom. Her and Sally Jackson would definitely be friends. So yeah, I really liked this book. There were like maybe one or two things that didn't grip me as much as other books in this realm have, but I did really like it and I really appreciate it, and I am excited for the second book because I want to see more Mayan gods get their time in the sun. Next was Theonite by M.L. Wang. This was a book that was sent to me for review, which I finally got around to reading and really surprised me. I really liked it. This book, this girl has more powers than freaking Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is a book that borders both on sci-fi and also being fantasy. It is sci-fi fantasy. It follows a girl who discovers that the new boy in class is not your average student and more like her than like everyone else. So she grew up kind of discovering that she had abilities to control different elements and things like that. And she realizes that a boy in her class also has those same abilities. And she's like, how interesting. So it is about her becoming friends with this boy, learning more about her abilities and powers. It has a great dynamic. It also does a really good job with world building and straightening out how these different planets work, as we are on planet Earth, but we have discussions of other planets and sort of other dimensions. So it was great to see the other dimensions and all of that blended in with the superpowers and the magic and abilities and stuff like that. It also had a villain in the course of this story. So like there was a villain, there was fights. So there was like, and the villain sort of had to do with a crime noir-esque, because the villain didn't necessarily have to do with these two kids, but had to do with why one of the kids was there and his father trying to find this bad guy. So like that was fun and interesting. I think it was just a really fun book. It was really surprising. I think it did a great job with the world building, the character development, and everything like that. There was maybe one or two things that I will critique in a later video about this book, but otherwise it had a lot of promise to it and I really liked it, and it ended up gripping my attention really good well, and it ended up being a very approachable book. I felt like there was just so much to it. Like, it was sci-fi, it was fantasy, there were powers, there were dimensions, there were like all these different ways of using your powers, and like all this stuff going on. However, I feel like I understood everything going on. Like, it had so much world and character and all of that to fit, and it fit it, and I understood it, and it did a good job. So yeah. Next was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo that I read. I don't really have to say much about this. Evelyn Hugo is my queen, and I want to be like her when I grow up. Next are the books that I read in December, which is basically every single requirement book ever. I think the only book by the end of 2018 that I haven't read from Rick Riordan is his Apollo series, which I've already started on in 2019 and plan to finish this month. But as for the other books, I finished my reread of the Percy Jackson books. I read the Heroes of Olympus arc. I read the Magnus Chase trilogy. I read everything. I loved it all. It was great. I can finally say that I've read Rick Riordan, all of his books. Minus the other 2 Apollo books and maybe some of his little side novella stories. But I've read all of the main ones. So that was a really big goal for me in 2018, was to read all of them, given that I love his books and that I had already purchased the other ones. So I was really proud of myself for finishing it. And again, I just love books that have to deal with mythology. So it was a lovely time for me. Next was The Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. This is the second book in a series. I don't know how long the series is, but it was a long-awaited sequel for me. Wondersmith follows a girl, Morgan Crow, who is now going, in this book, to a school that trains kids like her who have different quirks and abilities. And she finds out that her quirk and ability is to be a wondersmith, which is basically saying that she has the ability to control the magic of her land. She is the bender of magic. And that comes with a lot of dangers, because in history's past, wondersmiths are not thought of as fondly, and the main villain for the story so far is a wondersmith. So wondersmith is a bad word. It is synonymous with evil. And our poor little Morgan Crow has to deal with the ridicule and the danger of that, because there's just a lot of angst and beauty going on. Plus, it was wonderful world building and things like that. I think the one thing I want to see more in the future is a little bit more about the school and the classes. But I know I'm gonna get it, because the one complaint I had about Nevermore was that I wanted to see a little bit more of the things that were mentioned in that book about the world. And then in Wondersmith, it delivered. I got those things. I got to see more of the world and the different places and stuff like that. They had a whole section devoted to you going out and seeing more of the world of Nevermore, or at least the districts that Morgan lives around, which I loved. And so in this one, for reasons, Morgan wasn't allowed to explore the school and classes and stuff like that, because everyone hated her, and all the teachers were scared of this little girl because of her magnificent powers and did not want to train her. But by the end of this book, it's hinted she is going to be upgraded. She's going to finally get to learn more about the school and to go to different classes and stuff like that, and isn't going to be limited. So that would be my one complaint for the whole book, was that I want to see more of the school. And then at the end of the book was you ready to see more of the school? Because you are in the third book. And so I'm not even mad. I'm just happy. It has great progression. Jessica Townsend gives you what you want out of this series. She has to hold back for her own reasons, for the sake of the story, for how she wants to progress, but she always ends up giving me what I want in the end. I got to see more of Nevermore in the second book. I know I'm going to be able to see more of the school in the third. I'm going to just follow this series and hope it's 12 books long or something, because there are a lot of interesting things that happened and went down in this book relating to Wondersmiths, relating to our main character and the villain and everything, and I am here for it. The next book I'm going to mention is Nice Dragons Finish Last by Rachel Aaron. I think this was a book I just want to mention because, one, I think it was recommended to me by someone in the comments. I can't remember who, I don't even remember when, I don't remember which video, but somebody told me about this book and I read it. I listen to you guys when you guys recommend me things. I at least look it up, look into it, and then I watch out for it to see when I can read it, and when is the best time, because definitely a mood reader, because I only read books when I have to look at a book right to be able to read it, and then I read it. So this was a book about a dragon, and it takes place in a world where like dragons are common, and the dragon is kind of like a loser dragon, and he's not very well loved in his family. He's sort of the smallest and the youngest and stuff like that. And his mom is like, stop being a bum, and like kicks him out of his house and traps him in his human form and locks away his dragon form and abilities. And he is kicked out into the city that doesn't accept dragons, the one city in which dragons are banned, and he has to do a job for his brother to prove that he is worthy to be the son of his dragon mom. And it just ended up being fun. I liked the main character, I liked the other characters, I liked the story. I had fun with the book. I liked the premise, and I had fun. Yeah, I had fun, and I liked the premise. And so, like, that's it. Those are all the books that I'm going to mention. I read several more. Again, you'll see the Star Wars scroll of every single book, just in case you guys are curious, and more so for me. If you see a book that you would like me to put higher up on my list to review, or would really like to see my thoughts and opinions on, feel free to comment down below to ask me, because like I always read them and I pay attention. So yes, tell me if there is something in particular that I've already read, or that I've mentioned that you would really want to hear my thoughts and opinions on sooner rather than whenever I feel like telling you about my thoughts and opinions on there. But otherwise, there's just one last thing that I want to talk about. It's not a book, it's a TV show. Ashes of Love. It is a Chinese drama that consumed my soul. So that's why I'm mentioning it, because it is all I did for the rest of December. I didn't read. I only watched this show. It is 60 episodes. 63 episodes, I think, officially. More than 60 episodes. Each episode being an hour long. It's a high fantasy drama about immortals and gods. And it has really good visuals and effects for being a TV show. Like, they're pretty decent. Like, you know, it's fake, but they're also really good. Also, all the costuming, great. I don't agree with the costuming choices that they did for the demon realm, but otherwise, great. So this whole story is sort of like, it's a love story, and it's sort of like a love-shaped story, but it is about this girl who grew up in there are several different realms, right? The main realms are the flower realm, the heaven realm, the demon realm, and the human realm. And there's this girl who grew up in the flower realm, not really knowing about her true identity, knowing that she is actually the daughter of the floral goddess who died long ago, and it just hurts all of the realms and everybody in them. Everyone's still sad about the whole thing. And she ends up getting wrapped up with the two sons of the heavenly realm, the princess. Except it's a bit of a problem for her, because her mom decided that she would make her daughter incapable of love by feeding her this weird seed. And that ends up causing a lot of issues for the whole series, because like these two brothers are fighting for her this whole time. They both have good reasons, and neither one are really bad. But like, it's just filled with angst and a lot of stuff, and it also kind of has a story within a story. So like the whole thing is about the immortals, their love story about her and the Phoenix Prince falling in love, even though she's technically betrothed to the Dragon Prince and they haven't broken off the betrothal and all of this sort of stuff. But then there's also like this section in which they go to the human realm and they forget all of their godly memories and they have to live as humans. The main character and this Phoenix Prince who is obsessed with her, and like they're meant to be together, and then they get together. It's like it's like a little fan fiction inside the story, and it was perfect because like you wait forever. Like I said, it's like 60 episodes. So you're waiting forever for these two to finally get together, for them to get their happy ending. And like in the middle of the show, it's like we're gonna put them in the human realm, and then they're gonna have like this cute meetup and like this cute love story and like this like cute get together, but also like a devastating ending because the whole reason why they're in the human realm is to suffer and to go through the trials of being a human. And then we go back to them being immortal, and then all of like the trials and tribulations there. So like it tries to kill you twice with their love story. All of the characters are really good. Like I said, the acting is really good. The costuming, the CGI that they use, the effects, all of that is really good. I also even appreciate the love shapes that's going on, because I don't think love triangles are bad or love shapes are bad, because there's more of a shape here than like a triangle. The only issue I ever have with them, usually when they're in books, because I do like Asian drama love shapes, I think they handle it better, is like in books there is never an equality to the love interest, where it's just like you obviously see who she's supposed to be with, and you're just like, or who they are supposed to be with, whoever the main character is supposed to be with, but then there's just like some random ass dude who shows up and you're just like, why? But like I love this one because you see both sides of it. Like both have an equal chance here. Like you know which one you wanted to end up with because like they just so in love and they so cute, but like at the same time you're just like, but the other one is also really good and perfect and everything's great. So I just really want to mention it because it gave me so many emotions and feels. It was really great, and I would highly recommend it if any of those things you like. If you like high fantasy television, watch this. I don't think that there are a lot of like Western shows that go to the extent that this Eastern show goes to. The only thing is like, if you don't like reading subtitles, grow the fuck up and watch the show. That's it. But like, all of those are the things and the stories that I can kind of read and watched and listened to at the end of 2018, covering the months of October, November, and December, and the ones that I wanted to share with you in a video so that you would know and be informed and to go read or watch these things. So if you like what you're seeing here and you want to continue to see more, click all those buttons down below, and goodbye, internet.